Are you a thoughtful leader? Maybe you are. Maybe you think you are. Let's find out. I'm Mindy Gibbons-Klein. I'm author of The Thoughtful Leader and host of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. Thoughtful leadership is all about thought leadership that goes above and beyond. Thought leadership that is truly new and original, exciting, disruptive, maybe even groundbreaking. Because let's face it, we need to raise the bar. My guests and I are absolutely obsessed with finding truly original thought leadership, and I'm going to bring you so many exciting ideas and opportunities, things for you to think about, and chances for you to push your thinking that you'll be very glad you tuned in. So thanks so much for checking out Thoughtful Leadership and the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Welcome to the show. My guest today is the amazing thoughtful leader, Michael Borelli. Now, I met Michael at a dinner, and I was super impressed with him, and I think you're about to find out why. So, welcome, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, you are doing some pretty interesting and exciting things in the Web3 and crypto space. And I think we said we would address the obvious, the kind of elephant in the room. So you're pretty young and you're, just starting out really with a proper career. So how does that all work? What are you up to?
There's no set formula. I think you just learn and you take every day as it comes. I think all the experience I gained today has helped me and will continue to help me going forward. But I have a very strong personal network. So my business partner, my family and friends, and they help me every day. So I think I just take each day as it comes and just try and do better than I did yesterday.
Well, that's a really great philosophy. One that I think many people could subscribe to. I think in your case, when you meet new people, like you met me, the first impression was, here's this young guy, and you are very thoughtful, so you fit the profile. We invited you onto the show within about an hour of meeting you. But how do you get around that, people making a judgment up front?
Well, I think people are going to make judgments anyway. So I think, everyone has their own. First impressions, obviously very important, and just stick, I try and listen to what they're saying. I try and, do the thing which I love reading and researching, and hopefully that comes across, and just trying to relate and communicate myself. There's a lot of things I could do better, and I just try and take each opportunity as a learning opportunity. And yes, I may be young in an arbitrary sense, but I think there's people in the blockchain space who are far younger than me. And, Vitalik Buterin, for example, the founder of Ethereum, he was under the age of 20 before he founded one of the most fundamental, foundational innovations in the blockchain space. So I think age can be somewhat distracting.
Yeah, and it's not relevant in some cases if you're adding value like you do. So you studied law, and didn't you picture yourself kind of in a courtroom with the wig and the gown and everything? Or was that not ever the intention?
Yeah, I thought it'd been nice, but because a lot of family connections are in law. So my uncle was a prominent barrister, and a lot of my family and friends have gone into that. But I wanted to learn law because of the analytical skill sets it gives you, and the ability to just read legislation and formulate your own opinion, and supplement that with an MBA. And I'm also teaching myself coding every day. So at the end of the day, I try and practice what I preach, and I try and learn and teach myself every day, because it's a crazy world out there and it's very dynamic. And the more you can upskill yourself every day, you can deal with all the challenges, and there's no set stage at which you stop learning. So the concept of retirement, for example, is something which I'm very ideologically opposed to.
Well, so am I. So that's maybe why we get along. The thing is, if you're doing work that you're passionate about, it's not really like work. I mean, you just wake up, you have a spring in your step, you feel, you're adding value to the world. You add value with your qualifications, but also with just your thoughtful nature. I think people can learn from you as well, even if they think that they know more because they have more age, more years behind them. But let's go back to the blockchain and this whole Web3 world, which I must admit, it is very dynamic. And, I'm trying to stay on the edge of it. We spoke about a few things at the dinner. What is exciting to you about this world?
I'd just say that it's just changing every day and it's dynamic, and it's giving people a new lease of life. Everyone from the start of their careers or in their teenage years to people in their 50s and 60s or anywhere in between. Everyone can see their own way of making impact through Web3. And whilst it has many definitions, the one I subscribe to is the one where you can manipulate and manage and store and use your own data and be able to sort of monetize that and use that. So everyone from working mothers, everyone from small business owners to large conglomerates and white collar workers, they can all use it and use it to benefit their lives. So I think if I was in two strands, it's an innovative form of innovation, and it empowers people far more than the internet did, far more, in relative terms.
Okay, I think for the majority of our listeners and viewers, you may need to give an example or two, because it sounds great what you're talking about, but even I'm struggling to make sense of what you said about manipulating your own data. I think that's what you said. Can you explain a bit more, Michael?
Sorry about that. Yes, of course. So, for example, users could create, for example, their shopping behavior and a record of that. They could attach that to an NFT, a non-fungible token, which they could then store in their wallets. And they could, if a big company to them, say Amazon or Google, says, "Hello, Mrs. Smith, I would like to use your data. I want to use it." And then you could say, "Okay, I will sell you this NFT and I'll give you, and in return, these are you can only use it for this period of time, or you can only use it for this price. And then I want you to let me know to who you disclose it to." So people basically have transparency over who and how their data is used, because at the moment it's a minefield and only the, select few or people at the top of very large organizations know how they're doing it. And without us knowing it, people are harvesting and using our data. So I think everyone, all spectrums of society, needs to benefit from Web3, because, we need to make sure that it's an egalitarian society in its truest form.
Is that what appeals to you most?
Yes, because, and I'm not afraid to say I've had a very privileged upbringing and the opportunities that others haven't. And I think it's fair. And I think it's a nice way that this technology is empowering people to get to the, to better their lives. And I do think that if you empower people and improve their, the core pillars of their life, financial, emotional, spiritual, physiological, there'll be fewer problems in the world and there'll be more cohesiveness and collaboration. And I think Web3, that's just as my take on it. People have different takes, but I do think its ability to, in the same way that people get a sort of a gratification from having a job and bringing home and supporting themselves, I think that same concept can be applied to the Web3 paradigm.
My feeling is that most people in this world don't feel they have a lot of control over many things in their life. And so control is seen almost as a negative word. But what you're saying, in fact, you've said empower, not control, is really important, because, people need to feel they can manage and feel empowered and be in control of more aspects of their life and certainly their future, their destiny. So I get it. And I think a lot of the listeners would say, yeah, give me some of that. Do you think people need to become a bit more savvy with the technical aspect, or will this become ubiquitous and pervasive like the internet?
I think both. I think it will become ubiquitous, and by occupational hazard, people will be, by virtue of using it every day, they'll become accustomed to it. But I do think you can get to the head of the curve now and start educating using yourself and the technology. For example, every day before I even begin to open emails and doing it, I go for a run and I read at least a chapter or two or three or four of a book. So I'm reading one of Blockchain and Law Technology Handbook, and I do half an hour of coding on this basic platform. I'm not a coder, so it's very basic compared to some people, but I do believe in that it's just helping me. And even if I don't understand all the really super technical stuff, which I'm working with some super technical stuff, it helps your brain, be able to handle different challenges. And I do think that people just need to be proactive. And whilst, we are very adaptable, and if our positions are threatened, or, I do think we can be proactive, and it's just taking that first step in the same way that the first mile is always the hardest in a marathon. The same applies here. You've just got to get out there, have the courage and just go for it. And if it doesn't work, try again.
Yeah. Michael, have you run marathons, or is that a metaphor?
I'm running my first one next week in the London one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think by the time this airs, it will have been, you will have been successful. Let's just picture you across the finish line. And plus you've run, many, many miles, the equivalent of many marathons. But let's talk about marathons, because, I think there's a parallel here. I think, the thoughtful leader, our whole philosophy is it benefits us as individuals to be more thoughtful in both senses of the word. So it's, thinking about things, but caring, being thoughtful, and thinking about how putting more thought into what we do and say actually helps not just us, but everybody around us. So what occurred to me when you were talking is, this running. I assume you listen to audiobooks, not try to read when you're running. Both? Okay. Yeah. Don't read with the book in front of you. Something bad will happen. So going back to the running, because I think it's really interesting. Some people, including me now, say, I'm not going to run a marathon. And as I've said a few times on this show, I've run 2 half marathons, therefore I've run a marathon. There's 7 years in between them, but never mind that. We don't have to do all these things just because it's a bucket list item. Equally, somebody who doesn't want to become technical, doesn't want to do coding, whatever, might be thinking, oh, that sounds like hard work. Now, my point is, the thoughtful leader is not afraid of the hard work. And in fact, they're excited about it because it's leading them somewhere. So what are your thoughts about all this, Michael?
I agree. And I think I call it the crossing. You need to take a leap of faith to cross the chasm of uncertainty. Now, in the same way, the person intrinsically has to want it. So you have to say, this is what you can have, but you have to put it. And it's not just, it has to be consistent, in the same way that you don't just run a marathon right now. You have to train for it. You have to persist, and you have to go through the ups and downs. You have to train yourself mentally to do it. I've come across some amazing people on a day-to-day basis in the past who've come from all different experiences, everything from homelessness to people being divorced and serious depression. And they picked themselves up and they've said, I'm going to do this because they have a positive mindset. So it's the narrative you tell yourself, and it's the ability, I would say, to just block out all the outside noise, the conjecture, the hysteria, the jealousy, all these pervasive, all these abstract concepts that you could just, these negative thoughts, because negative thoughts come in, and people have helped me say, you just need to flush them out and stay focused, and set yourself a goal. And if you achieve that goal or don't, as long as you learn from it and you keep going. So in a marathon, you will, hopefully, I don't reach this, but if you do, you reach that, the 22nd or around that mark where you get tired, and you just got to push through. But hard work is, key fundamental purpose here. And I love football. So I look at someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, and he may not be as talented as Messi, but he works every single day and puts 100% in. And there's no substitute for hard work, because there's too much talk.
There is no substitute for hard work. And it's a choice, just like thoughtful leadership is a choice. Working hard towards a goal is a choice. But I think it made a lot of sense when you said you have to really want it. That, we hear so many people use the word should. And this is the next point I want to pick up with you on. You must have heard this in your life, throughout your schooling, in your family, even now. People are like, oh, you should be doing this. And the minute I hear that word, I get suspicious. But I mean, who says I should? And I'm, much older than you, and I live my life the way I want to. And it's taken a long time to get rid of that should. Have you experienced that at all?
Oh, all the time. In the same way we say, oh, you should be doing this because you're so young, you should be doing this. And, I just say, well, no, actually, I'm going to do it my way. It may not be what you think's the right way, but it's what I think I need to do. And, In the same way when I set up my own business, I've had people saying, no, it's too uncertain. No, I'm going to do it. And I wrote my business plan during the summer, and even my own father was saying, you should be playing outdoors and doing it. And I said, no, I need to do this. And I stuck to it. But if you're going to do something, finish it. And there's a concept called closing the loop. If you think of it as you were doing a task, and if you've only done half the task, that's half a loop and you haven't crossed it over. And if you just flip from things to thing and with not closing the loop, then it's just not good practice. So I think I do have people saying should, and I think, okay, that's fine. That's the limit you've set for yourself. But with all due respect, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, I will do this. So I don't listen to when people say they should do things, because that's their prerogative.
Yeah, you will. You're using your will, and we have free will for a reason. I think people forget this is all tied up with control and the blockchain. I'm trying to make the circle, like you say, full circle means, this is a way to live our lives, to exercise our free will, to become aware of these distractions and the things that you were talking about, and jealousies and wasting time. I know that you're a hard worker, and you have now given us a lot more information about why hard work is important to you. So the last thing that I want to ask you about today is, going forward, do you get excited about the uncertainty of the future, or do you think you'll have to work harder so that you can kind of be in control and more certain?
I think I'm very excited about uncertainty, and I will work harder and harder and harder. I'm a workaholic. I love it. And I think you get so much more from life, and there's compromises though with everything. You have to compromise on certain things. I think you have to make compromises, and not everything is perfect. So I think you have to be honest with yourself. You have to say, okay, if you want this, what will I give up? What will I not give up? And for me, I'm on a path that works, because the whole status quo, the whole 9 to 5, the whole, as you say, the control concept before, it just didn't work. And I tried harder and harder and harder, and it just didn't work. And the uncertainty aspect, it just appeals to me. And because of this journey, I've met you, I've met some of my clients who have now been with me, and I'm doing an amazing project. I'm working with my lovely business partner, Claire Cummings, this amazing project, Convex, all these things, because I took the butterfly effect, that one move. So if there's anything I can impart, I could just say, just back yourself and commit, and don't lie to yourself.
I would like to end with that powerful statement, but I just cannot finish without asking you if you'd be willing to share where you've compromised or what you've given up, because you did hint. And I think the listeners have got to know you and your passion. But if you're willing, share something that you feel you've given up, maybe temporarily, to be able to be this much of a workaholic, in your words.
Okay, so I used to have a flat in Greenwich and a full-time job in the city. I sold my flat and used the proceeds to set up my own business. I pretty much I used to play sport every day. Now I don't. I just run in the mornings and I read all the time, and I hardly see my friends on the weekends. And I used to watch football games, and I catch up because I'm just trying to stay on top of it all. So it is exhausting. And there are times, believe me, every day where I question myself, but then, once the thing that helps me, and is sleep. The transition between a couple of hours between I go to sleep and then I wake up a few hours later, my mind is totally different. At least a solid 6+ hours a day, and I'm good.
Yeah. We spoke about that. My body wakes up after 6.5 hours every night. There's that you should get 8 hours. Yeah, you get 8 hours. I'll do me. You do you. I'll do me. Yeah, Michael, oh my gosh, it's been such a pleasure. I wish we could just go on forever. I will remind the listeners and viewers to seek him out, connect with him, follow him. We've got the show notes. We've got the bio. You've got an original name like mine. Thank goodness. Pretty unique. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I think you've given people a lot of food for thought. Thank you for being with us on the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Thoughtful Leader, and I hope it's inspired you to be more thoughtful as a leader in your business. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. An important question for you. Do you want to create a culture of thought leadership in your organization? My best-selling book, The Thoughtful Leader, is available now on Amazon and many other sites in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Please visit www.mindygk.com for more great content. That's www.mindygk.com. Speak to you again soon.